And we are
I
now
don't
live.
know.
This is Senate Appropriations, and we're taking a break from our budget adjustment, and we're taking up testimony on S210, which does have a nexus to the budget adjustment because there is funding for what was at this point VHIP, but I think the VHIP now has an R in it, so it's rental in terms of the name of the program. So we have presenting the bill, Senator Clarkson from Economic Development, Housing, and Everything Else Committee. And so appreciate a walkthrough. And I think there probably needs to be, we'll be doing some changes as it looks because it references CRF money. And so we will be looking at the money. But if you could run through the bill for us, we appreciate it.
Thank you, Jane. Allison Clarkson, Vice Chair of Senate Economic Development, Housing and General Affairs. It's good to be here. And you guys took this up so quickly. I will do my best here. And I'm delighted that you are fitting us in. Thank you very much. I'm really grateful. As you'll remember, S79 last year was vetoed by the governor. It was our consumer protection bill, which had several elements in it. It had three major initiatives: the rental housing, the setting up of a rental housing registry, and the establishing of two programs, actually, the Vermont Rental Housing Assistance Program and the Revolving Loan Fund. We found ourselves in an unusual situation with the money going forward in the budget, but not the underlying program. So the money, in fact, went forward and was appropriated, the money for not for the registry, but for the VHIP program and the Revolving Loan Fund, both of which are in the Agency of Commerce and Community Development and in their base budget. They are there, and the money for the Revolving Loan Fund was also there. But in a very unusual situation, the program was in fact not set up statutorily. So they adhered, the Department of Housing and Community Development adhered to the values and expectations of the VHIP program, which, as you will recall, was to really address the vacant and blighted properties that are rental properties in our communities, that if they were given an infusion of both attention and cash, would be weatherized, brought up to code, and ready to go. So we, as you know, the umbrella of this, of course, is that we're in a housing crisis. We could do with probably 10,000 more housing units tomorrow. We need 7,500 more up here in the Upper Valley right now. So we are trying to use as many tools in our toolbox to create new housing units for Vermonters. And the VHIP program, so to back up, our bill got vetoed. We worked to meet the governor partway on some of his concerns. So we have worked hard to do that. And the bill before you, S210, represents that effort to meet the governor, to provide the on the rental registry program, which he had the most concerns about. He loves the VHIP program and the Revolving Loan Fund. But so we worked to make this rental registry program more palatable. And we did, some basic things. We clarified that it was complaint driven. It was never intended to be anything other than complaint driven. We simplified the bill by creating a new chapter, 172, to deal with it instead of kind of overlaying it into the Division of Fire Safety. We exempted owner-occupied buildings that have the owner-occupied plus two dwellings, two units within that on that property. So we exempted that, and we also exempted seasonal properties that were sort of for 90 days or less. People that have seasonal camps that are may or may not be heated, may or may not have plumbing, but that are really seasonal in nature. And those are clearly not intended for a family to live full time. So we worked in S210 to really come up with those kinds of compromises that we hope will satisfy the administration and help us move forward with this really important piece of health and safety. We have, as you know, about 80,000 rental units, of which the Vermont Housing Finance Agency estimates about 4,000 are vacant and 7,000 are substandard with serious health and safety problems. And you read the really damning articles about a landlord this last fall and the health and safety problems there. It's our responsibility as legislators to ensure that our Vermonters are living in healthy and safe conditions. And this bill, we hope, will enable that in large measure. 7,000 of these units are substandard with serious health and safety problems, such as incomplete kitchen and bathroom facilities, faulty wiring, no heat, and many of them are unweatherized. So this program, VHIP, which we'll get to, and the inspections will enable us to both help finance some of the changes, but also inspect the ones that are continuing to be rented and are substandard. We want all residents of rental housing, often our lowest income, most vulnerable residents, to have safe, healthy, and code compliant apartments. Currently, over 21,000 rental units in Vermont are covered by professional municipal programs that charge property owners a fee for periodic inspection. 6 cities have their own inspection systems. 4 have rental registries, like what we're proposing to do statewide. Burlington, St. Johnsbury, Barre, and Winooski, and 2 have inspection systems, Brattleboro and St. Albans. Their work is made possible by a comprehensive grand list, which identify every rental unit. So the rental registry program, I know you're focused on the financing of this program.
Senator Clarkson, we're interested in the appropriations.
Okay.
And I assume finance looked at it
simply already passed the fee.
Because of the fee. All right, which would support the investigations that might need to be undertaken.
So the big picture is we're hoping to develop the rental registry. Much of it exists already on grand lists in the lead protection program and on our grand list. And we are hoping to pull together a rental registry, which would help us communicate with landlords. It would help us when we have disasters like Irene. We could reach out to landlords and ask if people would like to house families that were not able to live in their homes. In the pandemic, it would have been fabulous to be able to be in touch with landlords directly to house some of our homeless and to deal with people that had to quarantine. There are like oodles of things. And the other big reason is that because of the CARES Act money and the ARPA money and the rental assistance programs, we've had so many reasons to be in touch with landlords, and we have no way of doing that in an easy, quick fashion. So many landlords and their clients and their renters have not been able to take advantage of some of the subsidy that we have. So the registry is really viewed both plus in addition, and it is incredibly helpful for our municipal planning grants, for our community development block grants. They need, and we have to spend money as a state every time they apply for one of these grants to find out about our rental units in the state. And they sort of out of whole cloth have to hire consultants to do this work. If we have the registry, we will be saving the state and our municipalities and our regional planning commissions money by having all this information available to state actors, to people who are involved in the state in the work. These are not, this registry is not available to the public and has many protections set up within it. In sections 4 and 5, so big picture again, the Department of Housing and Community Development is charged with creating the registry, hiring a person and a half to do this work.
Senator Clark, I know that you are very, very enthusiastic about it, and but we know why you're giving us the whole floor presentation on.
No, I'm trying to get to the money. Here's the money, which I know is what you guys care about.
The money.
I know, so I'm just sharing that with you. To set this up, we need to hire a person at DHCD, a person and a half, to set up the registry program. And we all, which will
let me
then
ask,
bring-
are you requesting in the bill, and I need to bring it up, I'm having trouble.
$100,000.
Are you requesting a position in the bill?
A position, and we're requesting 2.5 positions in the bill. A person and a half in DHCD.
So
And
you have the bill includes a request to create three positions, 2 full-time and 1 part-time?
No, 1.5 in DHCD and 1 in the Division of Public Safety, in the Division of Fire Safety. It's $100,000 to the Division of Fire Safety to set the program up and hire an additional inspector. And then when the fees start coming in, that will finance. It's all designed. The finance committee just agreed to the $35 fee per rental unit that owners of these apartments would pay. Remember, this is fairly big business, as those articles about that landlord in Chittenden County will remind us.
So you have 1 position at fire safety and 1.5 positions at ACCD?
Right, in the Division of Housing, the Department of Housing and Community Development.
Okay, so a half position is 1.5 full-time. In other
Correct.
words, 1 is part-time.
It's a $300,000 request from for the division for the Department of Housing and Community Development.
Okay.
And it's 1.5 persons to staff and work to set up the registry. And then so we need the authorization of the positions, and we need the money to pay them. So it's a $400,000 ask in total.
All right, well, we'll look at the position. I think Stephanie might be, she's on. Okay.
She's here. I thought I saw her. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so we need to create positions.
Right,
And then we have, and then obviously you're generating money from the registration fee. And then there are appropriations within the bill for the Vermont rental.
To set it up, to set up the
program.
registry, right. And to set up the program in fire safety, which, so that's what the $100,000 to fire safety is for, and the $300,000 to the Department of Housing and Community Development.
How much in fees? How much are you?
30.
The fees are $35 a unit, and which is it's a comparable and less than some of the city's rental registries.
So no, he wants to know the revenue generated by the fee, Senator Clarkson.
I'm sorry. I worked I don't remember. I have it here, and maybe Stephanie can remind me, or David.
Okay.
I
believe the fees were sufficient to cover the cost of the program.
The fees are designed to cover for inspectors, for additional inspectors in the Division of Fire Safety, and to cover the people in the Department of Housing and Community Development. The fees are designed to cover the cost of the whole program.
All right. So
And
then there's an appropriation we did the 5 million last year in the budget absent policy, so it sort of operated under the old CRF rules. This
Yeah.
would put money and the policy together. And so what was the appropriated request?
I have an answer to what we're hoping for. Sorry, I just had to go through and see what we're looking at. We're looking at generating probably about 900. No, it can't be. I'm sorry. I will get that for you, Bobby. I'm just not remembering what the total income is expected to be, but I will get that for you because I know I have it here. Anyway.
Do you have a total number of apartments available?
Not at, I mean, I know that they're estimated to be at least 7,000 that are substandard. The VHIP I'll get to in a sec, but in terms of the registry, we know we have about 80,000 rental units in Vermont. So the universe, but much of that universe is reduced because about 21,000 of those units are covered already by Burlington, Brattleboro, the cities that I mentioned that have a rental registry program already in place.
So the 4 inspectors, the 4 new people, you're actually talking about hiring in total 6.5 people, I believe. 4 inspectors, 1.5 at ACCD and
Yep.
1.
No,
So-
that's it.
I don't think that is to start out with. I don't think that's the funding request. And I wish I could bring up the document. Stephanie, can you help us in terms of the number of positions being
David just
requested?
sent me the link and I was struggling with it. There was a fiscal note that was done on S79 last year.
Yes.
And that fiscal note at a $35 fee is expected to raise in the first year a little bit under $1 million and then come in over the successive years up to about $1.2 million.
Thank you.
The need for the upfront, what is in this, as it's drafted in front of you right now, for the $100,000 and the $300,000, which is out of CRF, state fiscal relief funds, that is, that's paying for those positions before the fee revenue starts flowing in.
But the CRF money is now gone.
I mean, this is the ARPA, I'm sorry, I meant ARPA dollars.
But I think it still references CRF, doesn't it?
Is it, David, I thought it referenced the ARPA dollars. Is it CRF or ARPA dollars?
It's actually written kind of generically to say monies available from federal COVID relief funds. So theoretically, whichever one were available and qualified for that purpose could be used, but it's not, I don't believe it's tied specifically to either of the actual funds.
So the only one that would be available now is the ARPA state fiscal relief, not this, because the CRF is closed.
Right.
That's the $12 million ask.
No, it's the 2 appropriations that are in the bill, $100,000 to fire safety.
It's a $400,000 request on the rental registry, Dick.
But we've got a amendment here from S210.
Yes, that's the VHIP program, which is the significant money. I'll get to that in a sec.
And let me clarify. Right now, the budget adjustment passed by the House has $20 million for this program. It includes absolutely no policy to go with it. So what we need to decide, and what I think we had talked about, is the 20 million of ARPA money that's in the budget adjustment. We would take out when we finalize the budget adjustment and move it over to this bill so that the funding and the policy go together in one bill. So there is a nexus between the budget adjustment that we have here before us to finalize and this bill. And so I think the best thing to do is to take the funding out of the BAA that that went through the House process and move it over here to go with the policy and the creation of the program. That we ran into a lot of trouble or confusion last year when we appropriated the 5 million, but this bill didn't was vetoed. And so the question was, what would be the rules that 5 million would be, would apply to that 5 million. So it defaulted to the old CRF rules. So that, I don't know the 12 million, Senator Sears, you were referencing, but it was.
I'm about to get to it. It's in the amendment. It's the VHIP money.
I'm sorry, I was looking at the amendment.
Oh,
and
okay.
It has 12 million in it.
All right. So you're proposing less money than what the House put in the budget adjustment.
I am proposing $400,000 for the rental registry to set it up and get it going.
No,
And
I
then-
think we've skipped over to the VHIP
And then I will
appropriation.
get to VHIP in a moment. Right. I hadn't gotten to VHIP yet. But I'm happy to jump right in. So as you know, the money went, but the program didn't. So there's no statutory underpinning for the program. So this bill, S210, has the statutory underpinning for VHIP, and it has two sections for money. It has the $2 million to get them through the rest of this year. The program has been incredibly successful. As you probably remember, they've been working with 5 of our homeownership programs around the state: the Champlain Housing Trust, Neighbor Works of Western Vermont, Wyndham Windsor Housing Trust, Downstreet Housing and Community Development, and Rural Edge. And they've done incredibly well. They were able to bring 251 units online with the first money we gave them for the CRF, for the CARES Act money, in less than 15 months. And they're hoping to complete this, to not complete it because it's going to be ongoing, but they're hoping to both signal, they're asking us to add $2 million to address the backlog of requests that they have and to keep the workforce and the community engaged, and to signal to landlords that this is a continuing program and that there is money out there for this purpose. And because they are finding that this is, they've created a great incentive for landlords to bring on the homeless, that these
So,
first priority.
Senator Clarkson, I'm not sure I'm following all this. We had the 5 million that's in the big bill that didn't have the policy. Now,
Right.
and that's for this fiscal year. Now we have 20 million proposed in the budget adjustment. Your bill has a different amount.
Right.
For the VHIP program. As successful and how fabulous this has been, our choice is, do we keep the 20 million that's in the BAA and remove it from the BAA and put it into S210? And that would deal with the fact that there's more capacity to bring more apartments online, and the track record is good that they can be brought online quite quickly, which is really important. So,
Absolutely.
and my understanding is the 5 million has gone, that we appropriated already.
Correct.
So the bill is appropriating, and I wish I could bring it up, but I can't.
So,
What is the 12 million?
okay. To finish out this fiscal year, we are asking for $2 million to meet the huge demand that has materialized.
Okay.
So we've asked for $2 million for FY22 and budget adjustment, for them to finish this out. For fiscal year 23, we're asking for 10. I don't think Senate Economic Development was aware that 20 million had been allocated just for this program. And that is your choice, Madam Chair, to do what you would like, but we don't feel there's limits to the workforce to do this work. And we felt that 2 million was what they needed to get them through to July, and that 10 million. And if you want to make it more, you're welcome, but that 10 million would be great for going forward for the next year. I think it's a great program, and absolutely, if you want to do 2 million and 18 million, that would be splendid. But
If we do 20 million in the BAA, it takes care of anything that 2 million, and it gives you money to carry into 23 to do as much as can be funded. And one of the arguments of putting in more is that then people know and can plan around that amount rather than doing it in lumps. But I see Senator Sears has his hand up, and
I'm
so
just curious I'm curious who they is.
the Department of Housing and Community
No,
Development,
you mentioned 5 different organizations.
right? Those are the
That are-
partners.
Those are not statewide programs. So this is not a statewide program, or is it a statewide program?
it is.
Well, she
It's all
mentioned
your
5.
regional
I've never-
housing entities.
It's
Well, you mentioned 5 entities, and none of which I've ever heard of.
well, your neighborhood works you love.
I do.
Yes,
Where are they?
Ludi Biddle's incredible housing program.
It's in Rutland. I don't know if they serve
Not
Bennington.
Yeah,
Bennington.
it's Bennington, Rutland.
Well,
I thought
you
you, I
don't get
thought you,
down here very often, I'll tell you. So
Well-
I'm not voting for something that's not statewide. I'm tired of, like, Pathways is not statewide. Now we're fighting to see something in Bennington County. These programs that are out of Rutland don't always get south through the
I
border.
believe Neighbor Works of Western Vermont is Addison, Rutland, and Bennington. And I believe they've done a lot of projects in
Well,
Bennington.
I'm sure
and you
now
have to get-
after I've said this, I'll hear of all the wonderful things they've done in Bennington.
I am
I think
sure.
you
I hope
probably
they're-
will, Senator Sears.
I'm
because,
sure I will. I'm sure
uh-huh.
I will, but I'm just, we feel left out of the equation in a lot of cases. For example, Pathways, we're left out. And other programs that seem to generate interest statewide, we don't get. I mean, we don't have a recovery bed in Bennington County. Not one. So, when we try to represent that county and we hear all these wonderful things, and you mentioned 5 statewide groups,
Well,
My understanding, Dick, is that they take care of your neck of the woods. And I'm sure you are now going to know, as you said, you'll probably get an email immediately letting you know how many units they've done in Bennington County, because I believe they've done quite a few.
I want to know how much they've spent in comparison to the rest of the state. I want to know how much. we've
actually,
gotten in comparison
I
to the
think
rest of the
probably Rutland area, I think the Southwest region, Rutland had a lot of apartments that were in this condition. So I believe that there was a great potential to bring more
I do,
online. But
state. I do
we
too.
can,
I actually have heard that, yeah.
yeah. And so let's keep going. I think we need to make it clear that as we've had in so many, that effort and attention be paid around all areas of the state, and that there not be an unequal, if possible, distribution of the resources and bringing on these properties that are currently off the rental market because they're not up to code
Right.
online as soon as possible. And that is one of the things that we would expect the agents, the Department of Housing and Community Development to pay attention to, and that is equity across the state, because the need is certainly around the state.
The need is huge. And
so-
as far as I understanding, you can get Josh Hanford or Sean Gilpin in to speak with you about this, but my understanding is it's being as equitably applied as possible. There are 39 landlords from all over the state. There are, it is, as far as I know, statewide and enthusiastic statewide participants. These 5 housing partners are the housing partners, and each one of them represents at least 2 counties. The rural edge is Caledonia, Essex, and Orleans. Downstreet housing is Washington, Orange, and Lamoille. Wyndham Housing Trust is Windsor and Wyndham. Neighbor Works of Western Vermont is Addison, Rutland, and Bennington. And Champlain Housing Trust is Chittenden, Franklin, and Grand Isle.
Well, the only thing I can say, I'm sure that we must have somebody listening to this from the department, and I think it would be helpful. Out of those units that have been brought online, we have an accounting of where the where the money has gone and the units per region. I think that would be helpful in addressing the concern that was raised. Sometimes things are happening and it's important we get the information. So I know that some of the other programs that got funded only to be just go in one particular court or one particular area, but certainly the housing is a statewide need. And so we want to be sure that that is happening.
So to answer you, Dick, this is the amazing thing about messaging. 29 units were done in Bennington and 2 in North Bennington. Sean Gilpin, who runs this program for the Department of Housing and Community Development, has just been in touch.
How many were done in,
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
how many were done in Rutland?
I don't know. I have to wait a second for him to let me know. Sean, how many were done in Rutland? Please let me know. We'll find out.
Sure. Okay. So,
You are chatting, are you?
I'm going to keep going.
What, Bobby?
You're chatting and we disallowed chatting in committees.
I'm not chatting.
She's
trying to get-
texting. I'm sure it's a text that's giving. All right. So we have to have a discussion around, the amount in the budget adjustment and this. So this gets into the creation of positions and it gets into, is there an appropriation for the other part, which is the revolving loan fund?
Yes, and I just want to answer Rutland, Dick, 27 units.
Thank you. That's Rutland City or the entire county?
That's beyond my pay grade. At Pulteney, 27, Rutland 27, Pulteney 2, Fairhaven 2, 1, Brandon 3, Whiting 5, Bennington 29, North Bennington 2.
Thank you.
Sounds like pretty good coverage. to
Yeah.
me.
He got
I think
more
they-
in his share.
I think they
I-
love
I-
your neck of the woods. I
I
think they
think
love it.
Senator Sears' advocacy is just paid off.
Yeah, I'm getting a weird kind of reverse deja vu because when I was in economic development, Kevin Mullen was always like, "What's in it for Rutland? I'm not
Yes.
voting for anything if it's not Rutland."
Yes.
Now I'm in the reverse.
It's
So
true. I was
I'm gonna-
thinking the same
I'm
thing.
going to keep going. And the other is there an appropriation for the revolving loan fund?
No, because it was already appropriated
Okay.
last year.
Okay, all right.
It was,
okay.
and you appropriated it. And again, it's one of those awkward situations where we put money out there for a program that didn't exist. And so
Well,
this is a
but
party. Well, you didn't know it was going to be vetoed. I mean, they were supposed to go hand in glove. So the money went and the program didn't. So this is the program following the money, which is a very unusual situation to find ourselves in. And I have to say one that none of us like, quite frankly. We've put a lot of time and effort into working on these programs and accepting them and promoting them within our bodies. And it is very frustrating to have had that happen. So anyway.
all right. So the reason that we have the bill then is because we need to create positions. And we need to decide, we don't need to put any more money into the revolving loan fund because we did it last year. And then we have to decide on the appropriation and do we simply want to take the amount that's in the budget adjustment and move it over, knowing that that would then give a sizable amount of resources to fund this effort to bring under code units back online and available for rental. And I believe that there's an agreement about affordability for a period of time and so forth that goes with this investment.
Correct. And same with the revolving loan fund.
Yeah, so Senator Starr.
I don't know. I think I'm thick-headed. I can't figure out how we get the 3.5 employees and then we create 4 inspectors and why that only adds up to 3.5. Are the inspectors coming in next year's budget?
I think they were sequential as the money comes in so that we're not advancing more upfront than is needed for the startup of the program. That's my recollection.
So that would come next in 2023.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, okay, good.
So I think for the ease and to close this out, I would recommend taking the money out of the budget adjustment, the 20 million, knowing that more can be done in this fiscal year. And we would have policy to go with it. And then it's providing a significant amount of money to support more units coming on. And it can carry on beyond 23 if it isn't all expended, but a lot depends on how many property owners want to participate with the conditions that go with it. So that would be what I think is the easiest thing to do. They've come in with a different amount of money because they were looking at it in a more closed time frame of 22 plus 23. But if the resources out there, maybe more can be done, or it could carry over into another fiscal year. So I would suggest removing that from the budget adjustment, that 20 million, and putting it in this bill. And approve the necessary positions to carry out the responsibilities that this bill would create. And then we could move the bill out of this committee for action by the full Senate. Now, that would be my suggestion, but I want to have people weigh in. That way, maybe the 29 in Bennington can be moved up to, 50 or whatever, who knows? Does anyone want to give me a signal in terms of, would that be agreeable? Senator Baruth.
I would second that.
Okay. So what we have then is to move this bill favorably, and we would amend it to replace that appropriation with a flat 20 million, and not distinguish between. We're not distinguishing between. It would make it effective and available once this bill is passed.
For
Okay.
both programs, Madam Chair?
Yes, both programs, the revolving loan fund doesn't need money, you told me.
Correct.
So it's just authorizing it. And then what we are doing is the two things that we do: create the positions and appropriate. And so my understanding is the appropriation would be for the Vermont Rental Investment Program. And then the positions that are identified in the bill. And David, could you tell us what the positions are that are created in the bill, please?
Well, in the Department of Public Safety, Division of Fire Safety, I believe they're called inspectors. Is that what you're
Okay.
asking? What is their title?
Yeah. So we're approving one inspector position, and then in ACCD.
Well, so the authorization is actually to create up to 5 full-time classified inspector positions, but you're only providing the funding for 1 to begin with. That's section 4. And then section 5, those positions don't actually have a title. It's 1 full-time classified and 1 half-time classified. So if you want to give them a title, I suppose we could introduce that.
Bobby was right. It's authorizing more positions than financing. It's financing 1 position, but authorizing 5. And I hadn't appreciated that difference, Bobby. So thank you for reading it so closely.
Well,
Um,
I know Go ahead.
Okay, so, thank you. I think at this point, logistically, whether it makes, I don't know, whether we want to leave it in the BAA. I've got some question of whether it's better to leave it in the BAA, which keeps it separate. But then we're going to have to strip out the appropriations because we've got Stephanie, is there some way that we can crosswalk this so that the funding would go in stay in the BAA?
I think it's, potentially the same issue that came up with the veto of S79 last year. You could leave the money in the BAA, and then if this bill makes it to the end and gets vetoed, you're in the same situation. I defer to David of how, we didn't refer to S79 when we put the money in the budget bill last year. We just left it as.
And you see, that's the problem. Without language, then it defaults to the old CRF rules. And that got into the testimony that we had from Josh Hanford about the $30,000 cap for some units may not be sufficient. And so none of the policy went with that 5 million. So I guess the question, are we creating exactly the same set of circumstances again this year? The other way of avoiding that is we can track this through and then we can always deal with it in the big bill.
But
That would
I
be
think,
the
Madam Chair,
cleaner.
you're right. We have gone through this once. If the committee's amenable, I would think keeping the money with the bill would really be an improvement this time around.
I want to read an email from Josh Hannaford. I might.
Okay.
It just came at 2:10 p.m. to you and I, Senator Kitchell. We wanted to provide this Excel spreadsheet of all the VHIP units to date by town, which Senator Clarkson had. I would also like to discuss Senator Clarkson's concern regarding appropriations for VHIP, as we have been only using federal recovery funds and it does not require policy language to operate this program with federal funding. Please don't remove the 20 million from BAA, as we will not be able to continue to serve the demand and help folks exiting homelessness.
Right.
So leave the money in.
Well, that's his suggestion.
That's his suggestion because, well,
All right. So then the question is, do we import the rules into the BAA? Because we're running down the same path that we had before. I'm going to suggest that we hold on this till we get some more information, and then we can decide. It seemed to me cleaner to put it in, so I don't understand what the commissioner is saying that is the problem with the money. Could you state that again, Senator Sears?
Yep. It just says, please don't remove the 20 million from the BAA, as we will not be able to continue to serve the demand and help folks exiting homelessness.
right.
He said that the appropriations for their VHIP do not require policy language. He's afraid, I think he believes the policy language would inhibit their ability to spend. He didn't say that, but that's what I'm guessing.
I think perhaps then we
I think
need
we're headed
more
for another,
testimony.
I think we should probably
I-
get better information.
I think
they're supportive of the VHIP program as passed. I believe from our committee, they had plenty, we worked with them closely on this. This is, I don't think they don't support the work that's represented in this bill.
I'm just reading what the
Yeah.
email said.
I think I also got that same email. Perhaps the issue is one of timing. And so the BAA is a certainty, and the fate of this bill, perhaps that's a message around the fate of this bill. If you want to know the truth.
I would guess.
So if we want to put in conditions around this program and we want to keep the 20 million in the BAA, then we're going to have to come up with what we want for policy parameters to go with this program. Otherwise, it will default back to what has been the de facto, the design under CRF. Now, if that's not a problem, because there's nothing about the $30,000 cap, I guess, in this bill or in any, but we can check this out, then we can try to we can why don't we just hold action? We'll have to figure out how we can coordinate the money and the policy. I suspect the advantage of the BAA is also there's assurances that the money moves out in 22 to deal with that $2 million list of potential apartments that could be brought online if the funding were available. So I think it's probably an issue around both making sure there's money for the rest of the this fiscal year and money for next. But I also suggest that perhaps it's indicative of the fact that we might be getting some kind of communication here in terms of the fate of this bill once again.
Well,
So Senator Ballard.
Well, I just have to say, you know, it is absolutely, if that is the case, I just want to say it's absolutely outrageous to pit one group that needs housing against another group that's living in substandard housing. So I just have to say, we don't know their intentions, but if that is the game they're playing, it's outrageous. So why don't we hold action? Let's make sure we pull together the chair of economic development and Jane and me, and we can figure out what we want to do about this. But I'm not just going to roll over. I'm not.
Okay. Well, what we can do is look at what we want to put in the budget adjustment relative to policy.
Yep. Okay.
And so that can, if we thought that in fact this would move forward and get passed in a reasonable time, then that's one avenue of keeping the policy and the money together. That the timing may take a little longer, and that may be a problem relative to the 2 million that's needed, right? It could be moved out right now. So I think we can figure out a way of working on the language and whatever we end up doing in the BAA. So I guess there's, at this point, there's concern about, in light of that communication around not using the BAA as a vehicle to move the money.
Well,
Let's put it on pause.
But then we have to go back and deal with the fact that we don't want to repeat what we had before, where there was confusion about what are the rules, and the bill that had the policy didn't see the light of day. So that's, we can't repeat that.
Yes.
I am happy to continue to problem solve this because these are two incredibly important policy pieces and programs for our rental community, both for landlords and for renters, both to upgrade and improve vacant and blighted properties. And we know there's a huge need, and to protect Vermonters who are in bad substandard housing. So it's two sides of the same need, which is to have Vermonters in healthy and safe housing.
The issue isn't the goal. The issue is the rules under which the money goes out.
Right.
And the way it's in the budget adjustment, there are absolutely no rules. It's just $20 million. And that has been a source of concern. And if we want to address it, then we either have to extract from S210 the critical pieces of policy that we want to go with that $20 million.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Agreed. And
We're good to go.
And then, so we can't act on it now until we take a look at that, so that we make sure that we do not go down the same road twice.
Yeah,
correct.
All right, so I'm going to suggest that we move on to the rest of the budget adjustment at this point, and we'll see what recommendations around language that we want to put into the BAA.
Thank you, Madam Chair. May I go back to Senate Government Operations now?
Yes, you certainly may. Thank you very much, Senator
Thank you
Clarkson.
all for your hard work and for your caring about this and about all Vermonters in this capacity. So thank you very much.
Okay.
We will figure it out.
Well, I hope we do, because we've got only a couple of days to figure out the language that comes with it.
Yep.
But it sounds like perhaps S210 may have a few bumps in the road.
Yes.
Certainly sounds that way.
Yeah. All right. So Stephanie, we didn't finish everything yesterday, and I want to come back and see if we can start closing out some stuff. We also have to break. Chrissy, is it at 3 o'clock? Or 4 o'clock? It's 4 o'clock. I have a meeting.
At 3 o'clock, we have a break scheduled for you to attend, and then if we were going to reconvene after your,
I thought we moved that to 4.
I wasn't part of that, but let me do a little, let me do a little, and I'll report back.
I think it got moved, and maybe I didn't tell you I moved it to 4.
Oh, okay. That
Ugh.
makes more sense. That would keep you moving along.
Okay. On the New Haven Railroad Depot, I do have confirmation from Historic Preservation that they will put in a total of 100,000. And originally what we had was the original amount of 50. So that would close the unfunded, reduce the unfunded cost to 150,000. So yesterday I wasn't sure, but I do have confirmation that that the amount would from Historic Preservation would not be the 50, but would be the 100 higher figure. So if people are comfortable, perhaps we could close that out and help. There is going to be another grant that goes out for matching for Northern Borders. And that would be for the foundation, and that once the building right now is just being held up in a holding pattern. So are people comfortable helping finishing the getting us to the 100% since we're already at 2/3? Okay,
Yep.
So we'll close that one out, Stephanie,
Okay.
at 150.
Nope.
Do you have a list? What do we have left that we need to come back to? We actually
What
did
we have
quite,
not done is we have not walked through the front of the bill, the money in the front of the bill.
yeah, why don't we do
Um,
that then?
Okay, so
But my question is, we've covered a lot of the things on our list that we gave out to people. And I asked people to take a look at it and see if anything was omitted. Alice contacted me about the municipal planning grants, but that's in the money, and that's what we will be going through next. And that's 250,000 that was added for those planning grants. So anything else on the list that isn't on the list?
The justice reinvestment.
Yeah,
We
that
want to
language.
take another look at it as soon as we get after Michelle's finished, or maybe Stephanie or Michelle have already finished.
Well, we do know in one of the communications that came back from the administration why they wanted the language, and it was to do some, for example, IT work that would help them. So that was in the technical letter, I believe. Did both of those get shared, Chrissy? I think you sent both of them out.
Yes, I did.
Okay. But I remember reading why they wanted that language, Senator Sears, and I believe it might have been in the technical correction letter.
do
But
you want to look at section 62 up on the screen?
Yeah, why don't we? While
Okay.
we're talking about it?
Chrissy, can you let me be this? Can I screen share just automatically? Do I have
Yes,
to
you should
do-
be able to screen share.
Okay. Do folks see section 62?
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
this is the language that was put in by the House. I'm gonna just scroll down to the next page because that's where it's, so they're making the underlined and struck language is the amendment that they're proposing. And we can also put up the letter.
Was it in the technical letter?
I
think
it's either
so.
the technical or the policy letter.
Yeah, I think it's in the technical. So right now, we're saying any investment money has to go to support community-based service programs. And I think it's almost similar to what we were dealing with in Dale. And that was, remember when the Choices for Care savings, they wanted it to go toward a replacement IT system, which I don't think the House agreed with, did they?
And they did not, I don't know the status of what was actually asked of the House.
Okay, I think that they had a similar concern that we had relative to the use of the Choices for Care money for the purposes that they were identifying, which was to replace
Oh, yes,
IT.
yeah.
And so I think this is sort of an analogous discussion for the use
Yes.
of this money, which was which we were using that same model of thinking, is that the funds that are the savings would be directed in a very specific way. And the language that they're talking about that would eliminate the community-based service programs would give broader use of those funds. So it's a fairly significant policy issue that is created by the removal of those funds. And so Senator Sears, I know this is something
I would
very
suggest
dear to
that
you.
I would suggest we concur with the House.
And the House left the language just the way
Well,
it
they added
is.
they added the language to the administration's version. Provide additional funding. They made it clear that that the money can only be used for community-based programs.
Isn't that existing?
The community base was
Yeah.
existing, the support of the Justice Reinvestment 2 is being added. And then the restating that the funds may only be expended on community-based service programs.
Yeah, that's our existing language, and they're keeping it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're making it clear in the first that provide additional funding to community-based service programs in support of Justice Reinvestment 2. And then they're saying it can only be expended on community-based service programs upon approval of the Joint Legislative Justice Oversight Committee.
So I think what we have is the House did not accept the administration's recommendation to allow greater use or more expanded use. They're making it clear in support of Justice Reinvestment 2 that that's what they added. So it seems like rather than opening it up, they've made it very clear that it has to support Justice Reinvestment 2 initiatives and only expended on community-based service programs.
Correct.
Good.
So we're going to concur with the House.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
That's my suggestion.
Okay, and Senator Nitka seems to agree.
Absolutely.
So anyone else want to weigh in? This is certainly something that the Judiciary Committee has spent a lot of time on. And so what may seem to be a very innocuous language change sometimes can carry fairly significant spending policy implications. So we'll concur with the House then and close that out. Okay, so now we can go to the money.
Now we could go to the money that's in the front of the bill.
Yeah.
And I've just put up the copy of the House passed web report, and we can walk through. It won't take very long to walk through these sections. Most of them should be very familiar based on the testimony you've taken over the past several weeks.
Yeah, okay.
The change in
do we
the
have
legislature and the joint. I'm
Uh,
sorry.
No, I don't think we have the web report. And Chrissy didn't send that out, I don't think.
Okay,
But we can send you out the link if you'd like to link to it. Chrissy, can you send out the link to the web report, or
Yep,
should
I'll
I?
do that right now.
Thank you. So these, there were, in the process of the budget, these are the changes that were included in the governor's recommend for the legislature in the joint fiscal, the 105 and the 190. That's mostly reflecting those increased internal service fund costs that weren't originally budgeted, particularly around the retirement percentage. And the position in Arlene's shop was approved, but the funding was never included.
And no change to the house, and so let's.
It has to not change that at all. The house addressed the HROC piece in the one-time section, because that's not a base budget item. Going into the protection function. We've
Stephanie,
seen-
Stephanie, then the money that would have to go for the benchmarking recommendation would go into.
What's a Green Mountain Care Board? So that's in the AHS section of the function.
Okay,
total.
I was just wondering
Yeah.
where that would go.
And so I would suggest that we do that as a one-time item in 22, and then we deal with
Yes.
the ongoing issue.
Yes.
So we would do that in the back of the bill anyway.
Okay, all right. I was just wondering where where that would go.
That would not be in the in this body, this part of the bill, and it wouldn't be in the
Okay.
legislature. Yeah.
Mhm.
And now moving into the protection function of government. You've seen these numbers in the back of the bill. These are the clean water dollars moving around. That's why it's on the special fund. So it was the increased transfer from the clean water fund over to the ag side of the clean water fund in the food markets. And then in B240, this is where the remainder of the year cost was added for the 3 positions that the House added to the cannabis board. Bryn has sent me the timeline for how she sees the additional positions coming out. I think the ideal, you wouldn't have a lot of cost at all from them in 22, but having them established so that 3 of them could be on in the spring and 2 could be under recruitment and through the spring is the question there. I don't think you change the dollar amounts in this section significantly, even if you added positions. And then we talked about getting rid of the deficit in this section. I would do that as a transfer into the special fund as opposed to a change of the special fund to general fund here. Because it would be
Okay.
a one-time transfer into.
I'd like to do both of those things.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I'll
Adding
work
the
Bryn on
position
the
authorization.
small marginal cost that would come with the additional positions, and I'll just have to double check with her if it's an additional 5 that would be created in 22, and then the other 3 could be left to the 23 budget conversation.
So
Yeah.
isn't that another 6? Because she asked for 11.
For 11.
So what I would be saying is you have 3 here, you get 5 more in 22, and then the 3, that would get you 8, and then the 3
Yep.
would be remaining for the 23 budget.
Oh, okay. Because what I heard you, I thought it was 3 and then 2 to give 5 and then 6 more, but
So I'm trying, there was a little bit of unclarity from the first round of it, but Brenda and I will work through that.
Yep.
But that's what it sounds like you're headed for in terms of, and we'll figure out what the dollar need is for the 5
Mhm.
in the remaining part of the year.
Yeah, which is probably going to be relatively modest simply
Yes.
because of the timing and so forth.
Yeah.
But I think then we're agreeing that we would do 8 out of the 11. We would figure out what that would mean for the unfunded deficit for 22 and
And you cover that deficit.
and
with
cover
general
it.
fund.
And then we'll authorize in 23, the remaining 3. Okay.
Plus,
Everybody all right on that?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Stephanie. Then we'll make sure that we do that. And what are the additional positions that, we've got the titles. I know that
They're
they
mostly
had like,
compliance, various compliance positions.
all right. All right. So, that's helpful. Then we've got
At the
additional
various stages
information. Yeah.
of the licensing.
Mhm. And you work with Bryn on that then to.
Yeah, I talked to her this morning. We've done a little bit of back and forth. so.
Okay. All right. So do we need to hold that out or, well, we obviously.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of tentatively closed. I'll circle back, obviously with the dollar amount that will change
Yeah.
slightly here.
Okay, all right, so we will, what we want to see and what we're agreeing to is to pay the deficit or the cost of the program in 22 that have no revenue source
Yeah.
yet, and authorize 5 more positions to go with the 3 for a total of 8.
Yep. And then there'd be 3 more.
Oh my gosh, is that your cat? It's not mine. Okay, all right, we'll keep going then.
So that closes out the protection function of government. And now the meat of the budget adjustment, you'll see, obviously there's some significant budget adjustments in AHS. In the central office, in the global commitment, it has the single largest budget adjustment. That's the caseload and the Medicaid match here in the federal funds line. There's no changes proposed by the House. I don't think any of these. We go into DEVA, the changes in their admin line.
Let me ask, none of the retention money would impact global commitment in the secretary's level?
It would, we're doing it on a separate line. We're not doing it in 301.
Okay.
So when you see that, when you see the Medicaid part of that 60 million, you see the general fund match also being appropriated with that $16 million global commitment. Because it's a one-time event. It's not in the base of the Medicaid
Okay,
program.
all right, okay, all right, yeah.
I will say that the home and community-based conversations that we're having, there may be a need to pull out and carry on the home and community-based side, the rate increases that we did in Act 74, just to carry them in the right spot, distinct, because they're being funded by the home and community-based plan. So that may be a change that comes into these parts of the budget. They'd be net neutral. It'd just be moving them to be housed with the whole home and community-based plan.
Okay.
So most of that change in 301 shows up in section 30 B307, which is where we have that increased caseload because of the non-redeterminations. You also see part of it in the state only and in the non-waiver portion of the Medicaid program.
Oh, Stephanie, before I forget, did we get that language about the group from Senate Finance? That extension. Remember,
so I have
we
not gotten it from Jen on the split market date extension. I have not. It's on the list, but it's not. We don't have it yet as a draft.
Okay. Just it's triggered that thought. So I wanted to.
Yeah, and I'll make sure it's on that sheet that sort of scratch sheet we were going through yesterday.
Yeah. All right.
In the health department, there's an actual down in the general fund in the admin line. In mental health, you see this adjustment. I'm sorry, I can't remember the details. I know that the new commissioner came in of what's leading to the
on mental health.
Yeah, we can go look at their that's right. can find that presentation and understand. This must be number one. There. These were
Oh,
the
this is the incentives for the
Yeah.
psychiatric hospital.
Yeah. These are the various pieces included, and then, oh, the main reason you see it down is this net neutral change from the money moving from mental health to DIVA related to the, I should have thought of that, the Brattleboro retreat. So most of that is there's actually really, it looks like a down in the mental health budget, but if you add the $13 million back in, which moved to DIVA on a net neutral basis, then it's.
All right, so it's
actually up.
just a matter of moving
Yeah.
money. Okay.
DCF admin and support line, most of that's on the federal funds. We walked through most of these pieces. Do you want me to put up the talking points from Sean as a reminder as well? Let's see. Here. There it is. The ups and downs, so we can, did you want to just quickly walk through the items that were in DCF that are moving here? In
I
the
don't know, did
admin,
people want to go back through in terms of all the different moving pieces? You can
No.
see that,
in admin, it's mostly related to internal
yeah, net neutral.
admin pieces. When you get into family services, there's a variety of items on the ups and downs that we went through.
Mhm. I don't,
There
Any,
wasn't a whole lot of controversy around a lot of this when we went.
no,
through it.
I don't remember, I
No,
don't
it's
think.
just, it's just when you're walking through and you're just seeing the dollar amounts, if there were questions, but we'll keep walking through the web report.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, the web report isn't annotated.
It's
Sometimes,
not on the budget adjustment. It doesn't,
No.
I mean, the language gets annotated by the governor, but the governor's positions don't get annotated. It's only the legislative positions that get annotated.
yeah,
Family services and child development have the largest adjustments, smaller adjustment in general assistance and reach up. There is a $6.1 million. That's the going back to.
there is no language on reach up saying if the appropriation was not fully spent, we give it out in the form of grants.
I don't.
In the BAA, there's nothing there, is there?
There's no language in this BAA on that
Okay,
topic.
all right.
SLI heat program.
Oh, that's nothing. 20,000 down. Position, emergency housing.
And that's got the rental security piece in it, the 6.1. Was no change in weatherization.
Okay,
Modest change in the disability determination services. and that's the last piece in DCF. You had the new Commissioner White in on the Dale budgets. Just relatively
And,
modest.
and we did get information back in terms of, because she testified about the choices for care and provided us that additional information. But the House did not agree to that, right? You said of that proposal to use that money, choices for
Well,
care.
So the honest answer is I don't know where that stands. She believes she has the authority to go forward under the existing construct that we have now with the proposed reinvestments of choices for care. The House did not, put in language that would change that. So I think they came to agreement with her on the proposed uses, unless she changed the proposed uses after that. That's
Okay,
I'm
all right,
unclear
all
on.
right. So basically, the House allowed the money to be used to meet that.
Well, I'll put that on the list just to circle back and understand if her proposed uses of reinvestment have changed at all. Because I know there was discussion with especially Representative Iacoboni and her about the slate of investments that she had put down.
Okay. Anything else? Otherwise, we'll just keep running through this.
Yeah.
Governor's change, that's on long-term care.
Yeah, that is just reflects where we were. It also reflects the expenditure of that carry forward because we have to appropriate it again. So we can also, that happens with the long-term care reinvestment.
Oh my goodness, we do have an annotation in B338.
That's because it was a House change.
Yeah. Well, we're finally getting to something.
And so actually B338 doesn't exist in the bill because all the money was moved over to the ARPA slate. And so there's no change to the underlying section. But that money is not in the ARPA list. This is for the retention and recruitment.
Yeah, that was a total of about 6 million or something like that.
And
they
netted
funded
to 4.9.
Yeah.
6 million across all of the entities. There's a modest change in the out-of-state beds. The changes at the vet's home, 373 of that change is pulled out and put into ARPA because that's related to both the retention and the PPE that the vet's home had higher expense on.
Okay.
So that's it for human services.
Response on correctional industries from the department yet.
But that would be the one time to cover their internal service deficit. I think that was 1.9, and we talked about understanding that a bit more. And
I wrote them and haven't gotten back to me yet.
Pardon me?
They have not gotten back to me yet.
Okay. Well, that would be one-time payment. So that would be in a different place, right, Stephanie?
Yes, that's in the transfer section because it'll be a transfer from the general fund to an internal service fund.
Well, I guess I jumped the gun then.
It wouldn't be reflected in the correctional industries appropriation line. The same thing is happening in labor, where the increased $12.8 million to cover the unbudgeted operating expenses are moved to the ARPA tab out of the line item of labor. So this section doesn't actually exist in the bill itself, but we're tracking the money here. And then in education, the only change that the governor had and the House did not agree with, so there is no amendment to this section in the bill, is the 1.5. And I did let the Senate Education Committee know that was in the governor's proposal, as well as sharing the details on the 3 independent that the House did include out of ARPA funds. But I didn't stay for the discussion.
Do they have a recommendation at this
I
point?
didn't stay for the discussion. I came back in for So
Okay.
I just gave them the information and they were discussing it when I left.
Okay, so we'll hold that because we may get some, and I think that there was at least the sentiment of this committee was for those centers that did not have an LEA that gave them anything. We felt that we wanted to provide some help as well. So we need to keep that open and see what our education committee is recommending. So we'll keep that open.
In section 605 here, this is a technical change. It doesn't change the dollars available to VSAC. It's just that when we sort of directed the dual enrollment money last year, not to go directly to VSAC, we thought we needed to add an interdepartmental transfer, but you can't really have an interdepartmental transfer to an entity that's not a department of the state. It's a, it's a separate entity. So that directive is still there. We just don't carry it in the budget this way. So this is just a correction because technically we couldn't really appropriate an interdepartmental transfer.
Oh. What do we authorize it?
So the money goes to the Agency of Education, and there was concern last year from VSAC that it wasn't moving quickly enough over to VSAC. The Agency of Ed was taking a long time to actually do the pieces that were related to dual enrollment over to VSAC, and so that you still have the directive in there to have them do that. We just don't need this piece of it. We don't need this appropriation in this line item because you can't really do it this way.
Okay, all right. So this is really a technical correction.
Yeah. So I just want people to know it's not reduced. It makes the appropriation look smaller, but it's not reducing the funds are still actually going to VSAC.
Mm-hmm.
And then right now we're in the natural resource world, and
no changes. It's pretty
no
modest.
changes from what was presented from the
Mhm.
secretary
Yeah.
at all in these pieces.
And the water, that was just moving it over to ag from the
Yeah,
office of water.
and the higher, yes, the higher spending authority because the special fund is doing well. And then a net neutral change at the Natural Resources Board simply between operating and personnel.
Mhm.
And then we have the transportation pieces.
Can we just wait just a sec? Somebody's at the door. I need to just run out. Stephanie?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm back.
Sure. So I really can't speak very much to the transportation pieces. We had Joe Flynn in, there were, I think, across 3 or 4, just the 4 sections here.
There are really 2 things, one of which is getting the TIB paid off, and the other was just moving positions and the money for them from one
Entity to another.
entity to another. It's an internal wash, but to reflect the organizational change. And I think we closed out and we agreed with, getting the TIB bond paid and freeing up $2.5 million of T-fund dollars in the process. So I think we're all set on transportation.
And so that's basically it for the front part of the bill. Everything else that we account for in this report is in the one-time section that we've walked through in the language. And so you can see all the annotations that go with the House's changes on ARPA funds in G300, which are the workforce and economy and community pieces. And then the housing pieces and the
All right, so I want to go back on the house and what they've added here. Center Stars Committee took testimony on the working lands. And we had in this year's budget, 5.5 million between, I guess in the budget, 5 million, and then some for admin. So this is adding 2 million more on top of that.
But what we had in the
because-
budget, the 5 million was general fund. This is ARPA.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's business support.
It just means
Does
that
that
the
meet the
programs that
test?
they
Is
fund
that,
with
are
this,
those projects transformational? I guess they're probably as transformational as any other grants going out. So do we have a recommendation from the Ag Committee? Senator Starr, I
Yeah.
believe, said that they have good applications and that they would like to grant approve, but they need additional money to do it. And this would save doing another grant round. So round of
Yeah,
grants.
grants are already in, and they feel that, and I agree with them, that it would be nice to have this ready, shovel ready for when the ground thaws out this spring rather than midsummer or later in the late summer. And my committee voted to support this if
Okay,
majority, 5-0.
okay. And so we, obviously the vets home we agreed with, Department of Corrections to fund the side agreement they had with wage shift differentials, et cetera. They moved the administration of the UI program over to ARPA. 6 million for
the food
the
bank.
food bank.
The next 6 million is still open.
Yeah, the childcare is still open.
The childcare retention is still open. You're having a conversation tomorrow, hopefully, with the administration on the retention pieces.
Yeah, because of, they were saying it was creating a different system. We did have that request that came in for the caseload lore, the 800,000 plus, to add that to the 6 million. That was also requested in the House, and they decided that the 6 million was what they would grant. So, and so we'll have more discussion tomorrow on that from the administration. But I think Senator Westman was trying to do a little bit of research.
I sat down with the child care division and they're getting back to me. So I don't know if this predates that decision, but a lot of these people that you're talking about retention, the governor's proposal to do a tax credit is $1,000 to each of these workers, and is ongoing money versus this that's a one-time event. So and
What did they tell you in the letter we got? There was reference that this was creating a administrative.
Yes, but in what they said, it was confusing in what they said, because they mentioned the 26 million in stabilization ARPA funds, which were already appropriated and are a separate piece and not the same money.
But according to the letter, they said that the 26 million was to address the same needs as the 6 million.
Well, we appropriated that last year, so it's a separate piece. So all of this was on top of what we did last year. I've asked for in an email exactly what was funded in there. I asked in the governor's proposal when his 33 million that he did for all of the retention, 15 of that is not it is not delineated where it would go. So I'm trying to figure out what they would have gone in that.
Was I thought that was all healthcare, that 33 million, not childcare.
It's not all healthcare. But they're getting back to me with that. But the place that this retention money directly comes up against what the governor proposed is in the tax credit. And I asked them to find out with the tax department and give us an estimate, because if we're giving $1,000 tax credit to every single childcare worker, or we're even going to consider
They
it.
can't give a tax credit. That would have to go through Ways and Means. We can't give tax
No,
credits.
Oh, I understand that, but at the same time, the question is, I'm trying to create a whole picture on where all the pieces are.
Well, Stephanie and folks are trying to deal with the home and community base to make sure, and the healthcare pieces because of the different matches. So on workforce recruitment, 18 was to go to home and community-based services.
Yep,
And
then
15 was for non-providers. So in that 15, there was money.
The
Well, that's
childcare
what
providers could have come through that $15 million door.
and
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
And that's the question I asked, and I haven't got an answer back yet. If they envision any of that 15 going out to childcare.
Okay.
And just in the background for your information, the CCFAP increase is just shy of 5 million for next year in the governor's budget.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But just trying to create a whole picture here, so you can see where all the moving parts are as we go out with this.
All right. Well,
My
So-
sense is in the end, we'll come down and be positive on the 6 million. But there are a number of proposals out there. I don't know what Ways and Means is thinking about a tax credit. There is a tax credit idea working its way through the House too.
okay. Well, what the letter says, that the governor's proposed childcare income tax credit. So that's what you're referencing.
Yes.
Is what they want. I don't think I think the House, which is going to initiate the bill, is probably going to go with a different approach of providing similar to what the federal child care dependent allowance was.
I get that.
All right. So what they're saying is they believe the governor's tax credit combined with the CFAP in 23 is the better alternative without
That's
a
that's
temporary
correct.
program. So what I couldn't understand, a temporary program that the blending of federal funding sources would entail. What funding sources would be blended here?
It isn't blending. The 26 in stabilization ARPA funds is stuff that we have already appropriated.
I know
there's
that.
a list of all of those programs. I don't know why they put that on this in there.
So
So
it
the
seems
6
like we
6 million
it's
is not
all-
blended in any way. I do think they are expressing in the $60 million pot, they're thinking that there's blending. We were trying to be distinct about which populations would fall under which pot of money within
All
the
right.
60 million.
All right. So we know we gave them 26. The House gave them an additional 6. We're considering the additional 6.
Additional 6.
And what that would do is, what would that additional 6 go? Would it go out in the form of what?
It would, I asked the question. I know it's for retention of existing healthcare workers.
No,
That's all it-
childcare workers.
Child
child-
workers.
Sorry, childcare
Yeah.
workers.
And
As-
it's simply that language that is in the section 69 that speaks to this 6 million. That's the extent of the language. It just goes out to childcare providers for them to give grants to retain their workers due to COVID-19.
And so what would 6 million get you relative to the workforce? What's the estimate that would be?
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm trying to, and I thought when we had that, because they're quite convinced that it would be better to, from the governor's point of view, to do something with a tax credit.
Yeah, well, that may be their preference, but that's kind of,
I understand that.
that's kind of, if I win the lottery, what I would do.
Or if they did come through that $15 million door that the governor created, it's not clear how much childcare would get, as a segment, because any non-home and community-based provider could have come through that door in the governor's construct.
Right, and I asked that question also.
Yeah.
Did they envision any of that would?
It seems like we've got to be careful that we aren't double dipping here. I mean, that we're not creating kind of if we want to do something for childcare providers, it seems like it should be clearly identified. Otherwise, we could have participation in both worker retention programs.
Yep. Well, that's why I'm trying to create a picture of all of it.
Okay, well, good luck on that front. But I was just wondering, how was the 6 million arrived at? Where did that, where is the, it's something happening here.
And
Richie just fell out of his chair.
No, I think, is it me? I think it's my, it's on my end.
Senator Kitchell, if you take off your video and speak, can we find out if maybe that helps at all?
All right. All right, does that help?
Nope, the audio issue is still there.
Let me go off and try to come back.
Before you do, I think it's Senator Baruth, just looking at the microphones flickering in the participants mode.
It's not me.
I think it's Senator Baruth.
Oh, okay.
And we can't hear you, Senator Baruth.
So Stephanie,
All right, Senator Baruth left. Let's see. I guess the question I have, Senator Westman, is was there any paper behind the 6 million request in terms of how that calculation, that amount was arrived at?
not from the administration because that was not theirs.
No, I didn't know if you got it from your other discussion.
No, I haven't yet. I'm going to ask, Sarah Kenny is busy most of the afternoon. So I haven't been able to, I am going to touch base with her after this. I was wondering, because there was a recommendation apparently made out of the Human Services Committee to House Appropriations. And that's where the $6 million came from. So I was wondering if anybody at JFO had any information about that.
Well, we did have, Chrissy sent to us a copy of that letter or the memo that was sent by House Human Services. And because that was where the needle exchange was.
Yep.
And there was, let's see. No, all it says is the committee recommends 6 million be directed to DCFs to meet emergent and exigent circumstances following COVID-19 for workforce retention bonuses to retain early childhood educators.
Well,
So
that's the base of the recommendation you put.
and
Yeah,
I understand that. I was just like, well, where they didn't pluck 6 million out of nowhere, I assume.
I hope they didn't.
Okay. So we do have that letter. It was sent out by Chrissy sent it and attached it. So I do have a copy of it that I made. And so there's no reference to what that 6 million would do other than workforce retention. So I guess the question is, if you're funding that group of workers separately, when we get to the other workforce, do we want to make it clear that that group is being funded through a separate appropriation?
I don't think they should double dip.
Okay, all right. Well, maybe we can make that clear.
I think
So
it is clear at the moment in the House, because the House and the other pot has that limited list.
Yeah, okay. So they dealt with it that way.
Yeah.
So we don't need to
Senator Kitcher,
worry
you
what the
could come
governor.
back on video if you'd like.
So we don't need to, the House did their own construct, so
Yeah.
we don't need to deal with what, we need to just take a look at that. All right, so they dealt with that, 15 million already.
Yes.
Okay. Now, we're going to hear from the administration, because obviously the House was using ARPA money rather than general fund, and they have their view of how ARPA money should be appropriated. Some of these, though, that are on here, in fact, are a continuation of ARPA funding. For example, the critical occupations,
Yeah. And
University of Vermont.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Working Lands was general fund, but we think that that's
Or the program, the
business
projects
related.
that they fund with, if it is ARPA dollars, the projects that they fund will have to meet the guidelines.
Right. And and we believe that, which isn't on here because it's our initiative, the premium subsidy is also ARPA.
Yeah, I think that the thinking is that's
So I'm
Sarah
gonna,
Clark's working on that.
I'm gonna give the administration the opportunity to come in tomorrow and present their argument about why this list of ARPA uses is, we should change it or modify it. Some of them, though, in fact, are just a continuation of using federal funds or ARPA funds right along. CTE, that was, the governor had proposed using Ed Fund dollars, and this is obviously using ARPA. So,
And I think you're still waiting to hear from Senator Campion after his committee discussion on this one.
yeah, right. So I think probably we'll just hold this and give the administration an opportunity to come in and say why they feel that this is not, that we should not be using ARPA, but be using general fund, which then ties into the 50 million and maybe how they would propose finding the one-time money for that. So let's keep going to
So
housing.
D400, we had you agreeing with everything that the House did. What's still open now is the $20 million of VHIP in which vehicle and what amount of dollars it is. So
Alright.
if you pull it from here and have it run with the other bill, there will
Well,
be
I
a
guess,
change here.
I guess it's quite concerned about pulling it from this bill. So I think we will, right now, I guess after consideration and the suggestion that somehow if we pulled it out of the BAA, it would kill it for this year. It's perhaps an indication that we don't want to, that we need to embed the policy parameters in the BAA. So let's hold that out and see what language we have to bring in, which is similar to what we'll have to do with the premium dairy premium assistance, because we've got to bring in some language on that.
Yes. The technology section here, the state modernization, the governor had proposed changing these projects to general fund, and the House did not do that. And the guidance, we think, is pretty clear that it allows these investments to go forward.
So basically, the administration's proposing we change, go back and redo our own decision and make it general fund. Okay.
Jane,
Mhm.
was Stephanie working with Michael on that language that you need from us, or how are we doing that?
No, I think we would just import the language that you got submitted.
Yeah, we would add the
Okay,
money
yeah,
in the ARPA section and then import we would actually, bring in a new as Michael Grady has drafted it, bring it into this bill and then reference in the money section, reference the language we're bringing in.
Yeah.
So it will all go together in the bill.
Yep. Okay.
The climate section, the community energy projects remained in ARPA. The governor had proposed to put those into general fund. This section remains open for the EIC weatherization that you were going to swap out probably the $5 million piece to general fund, given the guidance. So this is where that would happen. You would see us in the Senate column when you see this next. The question that was outstanding is whether we had to swap out the entire $7 million.
Yeah. And we still don't know. And
No,
They
it's
had to-
on the list to run down when we have a chance to tomorrow morning to do that as staff folks to follow up with these outstanding questions and through the weekend so that we have them clear when we're starting next Tuesday.
well, I asked Adam and he said they hadn't had the application submitted. So has that been done now?
I don't know. I don't know if the application went on hold because of the guidance.
Even for the 2 million?
I don't know. I'll find out.
Okay. Okay, well, we'll have to hold that. Obviously, if we can continue to use ARPA for the workforce piece and only deal with the 5 million, the same as swapping out that we had to do for Housing Finance Agency, then yet to be determined. I think it's the 2 million that's up in the air at this point. All right, so these are the general funds.
These are the general fund items. These ones we did put an annotation in with the governor's recommendation because we combined them all into one section. And so you see the $20 million of callable bonds is actually a negative down in the House comments. And the same thing with the $15 million for the workforce retention. That was the non-community, home and community-based workforce retention.
Okay. Well, we're still trying to figure out all the retention and the money.
Yeah, that's a big outstanding issue.
So we can't address that. I think we want to support workforce retention at the 60 million because there's an awful lot of workers and we probably are going to be adding some more. We want to make sure that we haven't left any provider group out, including the group homes that are serving children in the custody of the state. So I think we've gone through all of these and closed them out.
Okay. Yep.
The only ones that we still need the 1.5 hearing back from institutions.
Yep.
And then
like the New Haven train station will be added here, the 150. I'm trying, the benchmarking would be added here at $500,000 for Green Mountain Care Board.
Okay. And I think all the other ones we've closed out
Yes,
based on your list. Okay, certainly the crime victims or the health, the retention, the 27th pay period, 53rd week is something we have to do.
yeah,
Okay, it looks like everything we've closed out except that related to that package of retention
Yeah.
grants. Okay, any questions? I'm looking. Is that the last chart?
that's the last of it. That gets you through all the, down to the grand total.
Okay, so now can we just go back and look at each other? Alice, you had a question.
Want to say I do see the 250,000 for the municipal planning grants is there in that list.
Yeah, it is. The House put it in.
Yep.
And people are writing us to say, make sure you concur with the House.
Right.
All right, anything else here? So I guess we just have to figure out, follow up on some loose ends. And then tomorrow, is there anything more that we need to go through today? We still need to get the language on the group, the small group, individual group market continuation. We need the language on the extension of the medical marijuana. That's who's doing that? Dick,
Yeah.
do you have that language?
I thought Michelle did. Didn't Michelle get that to you?
I have it from the bill that Bryn gave me the bill number, the document number from the DM system from where to pull it, sections 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Bring in.
Okay. All right, and then we agreed on the property, to use the year-end construct to deal with, so that we'll do the property management and of 5 million more, and then the callable bonds. Is that what we're gonna do there in that order?
That was what you agreed to yesterday.
Okay. And then we need to look at how much more general fund we're adding.
I'll give you an indication of that first thing tomorrow when you meet, just so that you have a picture of where I think you're landing for the most part.
Yeah, I think it's a bit more. We've got the 500,000 for the benchmarking. We talked about the 1.9 million to deal with the deficit in correctional. And then we were going to cover the cost of the cannabis board for this year. And we had 96,000 additional general fund for the primary care physicians due to the recalculation of the Medicare rates.
That will show up in the global commitment line item and in the EVA line item.
Right, because that's the general fund share. I'm just trying to add up how much more general fund we're.
There was one other $1.7 million item that the House did not do, and that was on the state liability, the internal, we self-insured. They did that simply because it was a balancing of how much they wanted to spend. They decided they could revisit it in 23. It may be a question for Adam, and he's in tomorrow, how important that additional state liability 1.7 is. They had a 6.7 was the ask, and the House funded 5, and it was simply about where they thought they were landing on their general fund. It didn't seem to be tied to a feeling like one portion of it was less important or something.
Okay. It was just meeting what they had for their target for a reserve.
I assume so.
Which we obviously are not bound by. So we can put it forward. But I don't think on the whole that we've got too much more than what they have.
No.
I don't even think it would come up to, it won't even come up to 5 million, will it?
It may if we have that 1.7 in. I'll put the little list together and put it,
Yeah,
so you
okay,
have it all in
all right.
spreadsheet for, and make sure that we're not
Yeah.
missing anything.
Okay, maybe it is a little bit more. Anything else, committee?
I will get the final piece on the recovery centers.
Okay.
I'm gonna try to work with Clay Purvis on the land growth situation. It was not in the budget because the governor's final, even though they requested money, 440,000, that wasn't in the budget adjustment.
But why, what
didn't
was it
decide.
special about their request that over and above any other rollout of broadband?
Yeah.
Just read the email and I gotta condense it, but it's basically an odd situation. They're so rural. But of the 45 they needed 140 plus people to sign on in order to make the thing work, and they only had 45.
So was this presented to a House Technology and they rejected it?
No, I don't think it was sent to anybody. I think Representative Sullivan just went and sent emails out to residents of Landgrove asking them to contact Senator Campion and I to support it.
Okay,
And then
well, we'll have to
we
evaluate
find
that.
out now that it didn't get into the budget adjustment, even though there was another project in, I think it was Colchester, that didn't make it in either. Yeah,
Well, then
Colchester.
I think we need to understand it better because is it because simply they couldn't, not everybody could be priority one for funding, and they want to have.
We were going to make a request for an appropriation, but could not promise we'd get one. The department submitted a request to the administration in September for consideration in the budget. The request covered projects in process, including this project, Landgrove, and another in Colchester. It appears that the request was not taken up in the final budget recommendation. I've asked the Department of Finance and Management for an update, but it looks as now it was not included in the final budget.
No, it's not in here. The question really becomes one out of all the requests that people have made, what would set this one apart from all the other broadband needs that exist all around in rural areas of the state?
The funds were due to expire on 12/31/21. Because of the short time frame and the size of this project, Comcast informed us at the outset that it would not be able to complete the project by 12/31, and it would take at least a year to finish.
That must be CRF funding then, right, Stephanie?
Yeah. Yeah, and they're looking
sounds
at
like
the
it
other.
is.
They're looking at now at the other funding streams. Evidently, Comcast had already done the work on it, but couldn't finish it by 12/31 at the date the CRF fundings were.
But then we got some extension, as long as it was obligated, it would continue, I thought. Wasn't there something that, Stephanie, that money?
Yeah, but I did not for, I believe, I think a year is a long stretch for the CRF. I thought that it was either 3 or 6 months after the close of 21.
Okay, all right. I knew that there was something that if it had been authorized.
I think that was it. I mean, we need to do more work on it. Unfortunately, the representative didn't follow up and just sent out the letters to her constituents and us, and then.
Well, I know that puts you in a difficult spot when you're having a legislative colleague send out a letter saying, contact your senator.
Right, and then it didn't, but evidently it never got back to Clay Purvis, who didn't get it into the budget. So at this point, I think it's something we'll work on when we look at other broadband.
How
I
much
know there's gonna
money?
be more
Yeah.
grants for the budget year. Huh?
How many dollars? How many dollars?
This was 440,000.
Pretty good.
It's-
shot.
Yeah.
Well, but
Well,
it's in 200 million.
Yeah, that's true.
It's sometimes, just making sure that everybody is being treated equally. Now, if there was some screw up that a bill didn't get through in time or something that makes this unique, that's what we need to understand, as opposed to,
I think what makes it unique, if they had already done the engineering and then they find it's gonna take a year to finish it, so they would, Comcast is gonna take a year. That's my
I don't-
guess. I need to get more from Clay Purvis. I'm just saying we'll drop it for now and come back to it later.
all right. You mean in the big bill?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we'll hold that out. Anything else? If not, I'm going to suggest that it's 3:30 and we adjourn for the day.